get started with today's proper cool zone. Um, I think I'm gonna get a model for this. Um, so on my resources page here, um, did I add it? Where did it go? It was a demon case recommendation for the Scan the World. Maybe I thought I added it, but I didn't. Ah, the mini factory. Okay, thank you. Need to add just maybe Scan the World in parentheses or something to that. I always forget. Yeah, so I wanted to work with one of these sculptures, and yeah, they're really good for studying, like trying out ideas, developing things. A lot of the SIGGRAPH papers and stuff like that, they were always using like these Stanford models. It was like a bunny, this bunny right here, Buddha, this happy Buddha, like a lot of old flip simulations and stuff. You'll see people melting. They just started with these few sets of models, but now with like it's easier for the layman, the average person, to scan some artwork or something. So it's cool to try out ideas or just play around with these things. Yeah, I don't know. I might just stick with the David. This is kind of a signature masterpiece. Let's get this. So it puts these into a STL file. It's like a 3D printing format or something like that. That you should be able to use the file sup in Houdini to bring this in. Just gonna do a new scene. And then usually any like model you bring in with Houdini is just really big, or it could be reversed like this or in the wrong axis. So this color, blue color or whatever, I don't know why this is unchecked, but it just means that you're looking at the back of a face. So the normals or the faces are flipped around. You just do reverse, and then you're in good shape with that. We can do transform. The labs. I don't know if I installed the labs here. Yeah, so generally for streaming and stuff like that, I'm not using mops or labs or a ton of like somewhat third-party tools, just so it will make it less dependencies for people to follow along with. So it looks like -90 and Seagull Rush. How's it going? And then the last one I do is usually match size. If you check scale to fit and uniform scale, then you know that this fits within like a 1-to-1 box. If you have reference geometry, you can use that. For example, like these humans here, this is like 1.7 or almost like 1.8 meters, or that's like a 6-foot person if you're on the what is our unit? Not the metric, the shitty measuring system. If you're converting to feet, if you're on our American imperial, yeah, the King David's system, you can plug in this, and then the scale will reference this extra input instead of doing that. At least it should. You might just have to choose your axis instead of best fit. You could choose height explicitly or whatever. Yeah, so this is just a quick way to get just unit. I generally do it just so I'm working with units I'm comfortable with. Then if you do like a VDB conversion or something that depends on voxel size, like if I tried to do this to the original model, this is 100 units by 300 units or something like that. So it would just create a ton of voxels. So this is why you can do things, and you don't have to be as worried about like filling up your memory or crashing your computer or stuff like that. All right. So I wanted to try to chop this model up, kind of convert it. Voxelize it or convert it, fill it with cubes, essentially. And then I wanted to do some interesting kind of like motion graphics or motion design effects to it, and play around with like the scaling or like rotation or stuff like that of the individual boxes or cubes or whatever. So I don't know what the best way is to cube this up. I don't want to have it like hard edges. I want to keep these. I want to keep the outer edges as like original geometry or smooth. But then I just kind of want to. You guys ever use the egg slicer? What is that? A mandalay? Mandolin? Mandalorian? What is this called? Hard-boiled egg. Kind of like a guillotine for a hard-boiled egg. This is what I wanted to do to the 3D model. So I don't know if this is a good way. Someone interrupt me if I'm making a mistake. But basically, you have the model, you take a grid. Because I did the scale, match scale, I know I can make my grid one by one. And then you could do like copy transform. And this would be our like grid spacing. Just do as many copies as you want. And then using Boolean, you can slice things up. Boolean shatter. This, instead of solid, you could just set it to surface. This is a little slow, I think. And then if you want to get rid of this seams, if you just assign a normal to the surface before you cut it, it will do a better job of. This is kind of like stores the surface normal before you mess with it or slice it. So then afterwards it can retain like its original display manner without looking like a seam. If you do exploded, you could take a look at our, chopped him up like a like a zucchini, put him into sashimi. Yeah, the normal is a good trick. It also helps the Boolean do what it needs to do. Sometimes, like, if you really want to be proper, you should have normals on even on the cutting geometry, and that will technically you can avoid some artifacts sometimes if you have normals on both. The cut and cutting are both inputs. Another thing you can do, so if you do points, where is it? Points from volume? Just trying to fill the bounding box with points. You do a Voronoi So just tetrahedralize. They got rid of my they changed the name of my node. Where did it, what did they change it to? It might be convert. Maybe they didn't want people using it anymore. Triangulate 3D? Is it not built in? Yeah, so it's the tetrahedralize that I was always using before, but maybe they switched it around on me. It's okay, I think I can. Yeah, I noticed it inside of the Voronoi fracture, but I didn't. Yeah, I think they hid it from me. Yeah, so if they hide nodes, I don't know if this is the best advice for it's bad advice. If you do op unhide, you get the full list of things that they hid. Can you search it with K? Maybe it's just for the class. Maybe not. But yeah, you could usually see it in here. This is like things that they just hide from the tab menu, essentially. Here it is. It is no longer supported. It's interesting because I mean they have to use it for the Voronoi fracture. This was the only way that they were doing. I'm basically just trying to make the connected polylines. It works differently than this adjacent pieces, I believe. So you can, I mean, if you really want to, you can get it this way. You could copy and paste it out of that. I have a feeling that they don't want me to do this. The reason I'm doing it is because I usually, for efficiency reasons, I'll try to bypass like all this other business that happens inside of the Voronoi fracture. But yeah, I don't know if it's the best. Whoops. So mode output, I was doing connected polylines. This is just the same stuff that's happening inside of the Voronoi fracture. And then I was doing the split, just like that. So if you use, I could do it with this, so I'm guessing it would be a little bit slower. I was looking through the other nodes that had tets in them, but I couldn't, none of them seemed to do it. This is a weird one, like, it's a weird functionality, I think, that doesn't necessarily have to do with tetrahedralize. Like, even before this node, they had a different node they were using to generate the polylines. But this, it looks like even right now, it's proving to be slower than the Boolean method that I was trying. They just want to use tet conform. That could be possible. Inside is still tetrahedralized. It's like the sometimes they'll depreciate stuff, but they'll just leave it inside of their own tools. I don't know if it's depreciated or if they just are trying to do like housekeeping of, so that the nodes there aren't like too many things in the tab menu. But yeah, this is looking a little slow down here, even for like 20 hit the streets. So it worked. But yeah, basically if you do a Voronoi fracture, and you just feed it regular, like a 3D point lattice or grid points, then it will always output like boxes or chunks or whatever. If I was to jitter this, then I would get smaller ones, but just doing 72 points, I think that this method of slicing is going to be better. So yeah, we could do this and do another copy here for I guess there's different ways to do this. If you want to, you could just do transform, and then if you keep doing maybe match size. I don't know, I might end up with rectangles if I do that. Let me just gonna do this to move it to the origin. All right. We'll make them bigger on that axis. I think we can just merge. See if it works. Sorry, egg slicer. Give us some some cross sections. So yeah, I think it's still definitely faster to do things this way. We'll add the other axis. I think here I can just do, I'm gonna go just 90 in the other direction. All right, let's see what happens. So yeah, I'm trying to get maybe a little bit different spacing. I don't know how much I can really push this, but let me try. See if we can go down to like 0.05. What do you guys think? It's gonna work? Let me just save this. There's gonna be crashing. There's gonna be cheating. Yeah, it looks like that wasn't so bad. So I tried that before with Voronoi, and it would be a lot slower to go up into bigger data sets or point counts or whatever like this. So this wasn't so bad. What is this here? 24 seconds. If we need to get more resolution or whatever out of this, if we really wanted to, we could. I'm just gonna do the assemble here. We could do packed pieces. So we're doing each of those boxes is now a packed RBD, or not necessarily packed RBD, but packed primitive, packed fragment. But that just lets you modify each connected piece like it's a point. This is kind of like the basis of the MOPS toolset, is basically treating these like they're little instances, or it just lets you modify them and stuff more quickly. So yeah, what I wanted to do was have some other shapes, maybe like a sphere or something like that. Just moving around and like modifying properties or attributes or stuff like that of these boxes as it drifts around. So I could take this sphere and maybe just do attribute noise. We'll just add noise to the position. They updated this. Look at that. It looks like maybe improvements. Maybe they just move stuff around. Animation. Turn that on. But you guys have probably seen me do this before with the other setups. It looks like they just kind of restructured the layout. So this is just a quick way to, instead of doing a simulation, you just kind of have this thing like it's blowing around in the wind or something like that. Let's do maybe this, the pulse duration. A longer pulse will slow down the motion of things. The offset, you can use that as just like another random result, kind of like a seed. You just type in a number if you want a different behavior or whatever. All right, that should be good. I'm gonna do maybe VDB. Convert this to a VDB. So the VDB is kind of nice. The surface, or these SDF VDBs that get drawn like their surface in the viewport. If you look at the values of the voxels, you turn off the visualization and just do no mapping. This is kind of the object space or your local space distance to the surface of the original polygons that get converted. So these are actually negative numbers or values inside of here. Anything inside of the shape or inside of the polygons is negative, and then as you move further from the surface, you get positive values. You just have to be a little bit careful here with these interior and exterior. What I might do is actually switch to ISO offset. You can still build a SDF volume. It's the same idea. The reason I'm switching this here is because it's not sparse. Sometimes you can do it if there's like a little trick or advantage you can do. Traditional volumes, if you set your type, the border type to SDF, this will give you the values will keep expanding to infinity. So you don't have to worry about the bandwidth or interior exterior bandwidth. So if you have this grid that's this size, or even if we do attribute from volume, it's just the quickest way to kind of transfer the voxel value to geometry is with this attribute from volume. So we'd take maybe just this surface there and plug it in. Let's turn off some of this other stuff. All right. So you can see the value here of the distance is even going down into his legs. If we do the other VDB, it kind of gets capped, or it stops extrapolating values out when it gets a certain distance from the surface. If you want, you could like kind of help it by expanding these numbers, but sometimes it can just be a pain to manage that. So this ISO offset border type to SDF, and it will extrapolate unlimited. So if I animate this now with the distance, then we have just an updating range. So this is just a little bit quicker, I think, than doing like attribute transfer. You can do the ray node. You would get like a distance, point intersection distance, or stuff like that. The SDF is a little bit nicer because it will keep track of like inside or outside or things like that. So we'll take the assembled packed result and then do a wrangle with it. So kind of rebuilding a bit of this. If you do volume sample, the current, I'm going to do 1 to get this auxiliary input 1. 0 is just the 0th primitive. If you have other volumes, you would do like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever to get the other thing. But this one, we just have one volume, the surface, and its primitive number is 0. And then the last is just the position that you want to sample the volume at. So that lets us just rebuild this attribute from volume essentially, but we haven't put this into a variable or done anything with it. If you do this, just set it to the color, then we've essentially rebuilt it. So you get rid of that. Just gonna do this as float dist. This is the distance, and could use this to modify the scale of these primitives, or the packed primitives. So you think I've done some more advanced streams or whatever on them, but basically all these packed primitives have a just plug this into the right input. Zunder Arts, how's it going? Hello. These all have the transform. These are all unit, or thanks for making the jump over. You're coming from YouTube? Wasn't it the last time you were tracing? It might have been. There was one stream I did just all about transform intrinsics a while back, using Vex to modify them. Maybe like 2 months, 2.5 months ago or something like that. Where you could kind of do like some simplified fracturing or cracking if you just start to shrink like things. It was definitely in my you're in the Discord. Thanks for making the jump over there. Yeah, if you do ! Discord in the chat, you'll see a link to it. It's a nice cozy place. You'd find all the old streams and everything over there. If you need help as well, it's a good portion of people in there. So yeah, this is the YouTube video from the VOD or whatever. So this, I did a long kind of discussion about it, if you want to look it up. I've been so busy. Somewhat. I was streaming more regularly a while back, but been trying more recently I like knocked off a day or two, and then been trying to push these Vex things and doing more structured or more planning or whatever recently. But yeah, it's been a good got to do something during the lockdown, the confinement. So we can set the prim intrinsics using this function, and you just do 0 again to say this is going to modify myself or the current primitives or the current intrinsics. I'm in the US, in Northern California, the San Francisco area, the Pacific time zone. Thinking of converting bright values of a high contrast image points. I'm not sure which stream that was, if it was that the main topic of it, or that was just something that I went on a tangent about. So set primitive intrinsic is 0 for the current geometry, and then transform is the name of the intrinsic that we want to modify. And then you do primnum or ptnum for which primitives you want to modify. And then the last one is like the value you want to set it to. So for this transform, it's actually something that's like a matrix 3. If we want to get that, we can just read it from the current geometry. So we'll say matrix 3 xform equals prim intrinsic from myself, get the transform, and from the current primitive number. So we're reading it into this variable and then writing it back into the result, but nothing happens. So what we can do is now just scale or modify this intrinsic. So scale is a vector that goes in 3 directions or 3 axes, like x, y, and z, but if you want to use a uniform number, you could do this. This vector is just telling it to assign this same value to all 3 components or axes, x, y, and z. So uniform scale all of the intrinsics to be half their scale. But we've read this distance value, so if we want to instead scale it based off of this distance, then you could kind of see we're getting an interesting effect. So as this sphere visualization moves around, getting different results based off of it. I think just not doing the best job visualizing it. Let's just do this. All right. This is pretty cool. Could remap this distance to kind of shrink it or play around with it. say the distance equals fit. We'll take a value and then you have a specified like incoming input minimum and maximum. So we're fitting it or remapping it from a range to a new range. So we could say from negative 0.5. We're starting with negative numbers because this is the SDF that has negative inside of it. The value will be negative. Say maybe to 0.15. And let's do 0 to 1. So once I do that, you can kind of see we've modulated or changed the result. So it's just a more abrupt, should be a more abrupt transition. I think my sense of scale was a little bit off. I want these things to completely like disappear. And then I think just make the outer, or the source maximum a little bit lower as well. This is kind of like a contrast, like changing the image contrast, but in 3D space. So instead of a more blurry or wider range, we're sharpening the contrast or the change in these values to get a more abrupt effect. Recovered from election stress yet? A little bit, yeah. It seems it's definitely less nervousness, I would say. The Gobo stream. That could have been it, I think. Yeah, I was doing the trace swap with a link to some of the images. I think I did the attribute from map in that stream as well to copy a value to the points as well. But yeah, I live pretty close to the Twitter headquarters or the Twitter building in San Francisco. There's been all kinds of like protests and public disturbances due to their policy changes or whatever as well recently. All right, so the other thing I'm going to do is just go up to the Boolean. I'm going to take the groupings here and just modify them a little bit. So we could store the A polys. That will be any polygons from this A or primary input and put them into a group. So this way we'll have a way to separate or differentiate between kind of shell or interior polygons. So if I take a color node here and just try something, do this harsh magenta, then this is only affecting the A polygons or the source from the primary input. You do exclamation mark A polys, and this is like everything excluding the A polys. I don't know what this, to get rid of the seams. You can definitely set it to primitive. That will fix it. Might be able to do vertex. I think maybe vertex is better for right now. Just because I'm going to be using Redshift, so Redshift will definitely pick up the vertex color, but I've had problems before in the past with setting a color on primitives and having Redshift pick it up. The only reason you can't do it with points is because these points are shared. So when you assign a color to them, it interpolates the color. Kind of like if you've ever done a UV seam, you can cut your UV maps into different islands without modifying the point counts. Is kind of the same idea. All right, this is just a little cleaner now. Maybe let's go to this blue. Blue could be good. You guys ever seen this Eve, I don't know how to pronounce this. Eve Klein, Eve Klein blue. This is like a, I don't know what you would call it, contemporary art. Was always working with a very particular shade of blue. There was the this other guy, Jeff Koons, who did this reflective. This is like a similar blue color. Or something like that could be cool. Kind of like a HDRI light probe. Seen what again? Jeff Koons, yeah, he's doing a series of art, basically just putting a sphere in HDRI in an environment, and that was all that. So some of his art is, I think even this stuff, like he wasn't even making it himself. It was just like his assistants. They would just basically say like, make this reflective statue, and that would be his work. Sassy. All right. That's the, I don't know, this color just reminded me of that stuff. I don't know if it's exactly this color. It seems like it has a little bit more, it's just like a little bit more magenta in it or something. Maybe it's just a little less bright as well. I don't know. But yeah, that's just why I was thinking of that. Maybe just make this sphere a little bit smaller and adjust the ranges. I'm just making it it will fade out from further away, but then it will shrink to 0 when it gets closer to the surface of the spheres. I think I'm gonna try to get some more pieces out of this setup. We'll do half the separation size. We just need to double the number of slicing grids. Do the same thing here. It should take a little bit longer. I think the last one was like 25 seconds. It might be like closer to 1 or 2 minutes now. No, there wasn't any vodka. I think I breathed in too much air, maybe. All right, let's try it again. So it's still Boolean. It looks like it just finished. So yeah, just a little over a minute. It's not too bad. Just getting a little bit more detail out of this stuff. Yeah, so let's see. Might maybe just happens to me. Yeah, I don't know, it just happened. I think I was trying to talk as well and just doing too much stuff. So I'm gonna switch this around a little bit. Maybe do a scatter. just to get points on the surface, was it like 21? 21. And just do copy to points. We just need to move this back to the origin. And then we'll be ISO offsetting all of them. It doesn't like it. Okay, just needed some more divisions. I might need to do this attribute stuff earlier in my chain. Just so this will move each point individually. If we do it after the volume, it will just move, like, treat the volume like it's all connected or it's all one point. All right, let's see what happens. It's still working. It's pretty nice. So I'll save this again. If you guys want to get up to date with any of this, this is the current file. I might do a quick flipbook if you guys are, give you a chance to open the file or load things up. Just turn on the template to visualize these. And if you're looking for the source model, if you just go to the My Mini model, or My Mini Factory / Scan the World, you just download the Michelangelo, just the STL file. You should be good to go. Just this button right here. Yeah. If you freeze the node, will it load with the model? It might, but it will make my scene files pretty big. So then every time I distribute this, it will upload like several megabytes or possibly gigabytes to my web server, and my domain host might not be happy with me. So in general, I try to keep these scene files as small as possible. But yeah, if you want to freeze, you do like the red button. That will work. You could also do the stash node. And then that's kind of like with Maya, how geometry will get embedded into the scene file. You can feed a URL, but it looks like this website here. I was trying to right click on it, and like I don't think they'll let you get a direct link to the stuff. I don't know why it's asking me for that. It's giving me an ad or something. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably using like a PHP or something to generate unique links. But yeah, I mean, you could just plug in as well, like a test geometry or stuff like that. So yeah, I think parts of this are pretty cool going through the things. Yeah, it seems like this website is not letting you hijack their URLs. Yeah, so it's a little bit, you'd see some of this stuff was like flickering. The noise I'm using, I left not much. How's it going? Yeah, I did do a scene distribution recently, if like 5 minutes ago. If you go to this link, or if you have the tools or whatever set up, you should be caught up pretty quickly. And then the model we're working off of is that model. So yeah, this is a little bit too jittery in some areas. I don't know if this. Sometimes the noise with the flipbook, this attribute noise is a little bit hard to control. Headband 112, thank you for the tier 1. Let's go. This attribute noise is a little bit limiting, like in terms of messing with it or modifying it too much. If you want to, sometimes you can like make your own noise. I'm just gonna stick with it for right now. I'm gonna use a solver SOP. So the solver SOP is a little bit shelf tool to lurk your yeah, I wasn't using that until a couple months ago, but it seems like it's a lot easier for people to. I've followed along with like streams or even live demos with Houdini before, and it's very easy to miss a step in like a single checkbox or something like that, and then you're just kind of hopeless until they distribute the file like a day later or an hour later or whatever. So it's seems to definitely have helped so far. But yeah, what I'm gonna do with the solver, I'm gonna take the value of this. I'm just gonna keep kind of accumulating it or messing with it so it doesn't get like overwritten every frame. So instead of making this an internal variable with Vex, I'm just going to switch to a like point attribute. So this way I can keep reusing the value over and over again. Let's just switch this to let's just call this like uniform scale, uniscale. And then instead of all right, let me figure out this stuff first. All right. So you plug this extra input into the previous frame. So if we want to get the previous frame's distance, you can do op input to dist. And then that will automatically link or bind it to the distance value of the matching point from this input. And then what I can do with this distance is just do this linear interpolation. So we're going to do a mix or a blend of this current volume sample dist and the previous value. And then the last argument here is just your blend. So 1 will just keep reusing the previous distance. 0 would keep updating it, kind of overwriting it. And like 0.5 would be a halfway mix between the two. 0.85 would bias it more heavily to the previous distance. I don't know if I needed like a starting value for it. Zanders, thank you for the tier 1. Thank you for subscribing. Let's go. I think that this value right now is getting overwritten, basically. We could just do this. Like if the frame is greater than 1, then we'll do the blending. It might have been because I wasn't working on the first frame. Let me give that a try. You can see like the orange bar at the bottom. It looks like that's still the problem. So I'll just go back to this. So it's basically here is saying if this isn't the starting frame or the first frame, then we'll do blending with previous frame. The issue is that this, on the start of this solver, or before it doesn't have a previous frame to work with, it doesn't know what value to start using. So this is what causes the issue. Thank you for your stream and the knowledge that you share with us. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm happy to help. Give people a good, some good vibes, good community to kick it. Pass around some tips. I don't know if I think I've still made an error. I think for this other argument here, I want it to be a combination. I think you want to use the minimum. This will say the lower value between the current distance and the previous distance. Why go to uni? Yeah, I mean, it's tough to, even at a lot of universities, they don't do, at least when I was in college, they didn't do a ton of Houdini. They didn't offer any Houdini courses at the college I went to. Kind of just have to pull it together, pull resources from all over the place. I don't know if it's working. I might switch the method around here. It's just I think I just wasn't assigning the value. Was that it? No, it was okay. All right, just get rid of those lines. And I don't know, I have some suspicions here. Let me do this as a check here. So I'm using this min function, and this should make these values kind of stick. Let's see if this works. Let's go back up to this main level. All right, I think it's working. It's doing what I'm expecting. It's basically holding the lower of the previous frame or the current frame. It's kind of like an erosion effect right now. If we want to have it slowly go back to where it was, like, you should be able to just do at the end of all your steps. Just add a number to itself. So unless it gets like reduced to a lower number, it will try to increment back to its 0 value. Might be too. I don't know. I think I think I've messed it up. I think I'm trying to do too much here. Let me just rearrange this junk. I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this stuff out of it. Go up a level and move that to a new wrangle node. Paste it in here. So this one, we're taking the distance, remapping it, and doing the modification of the scale. And then in here, I'm just going to use this to modify the distance, and it should be a little bit easier to keep track of things. I think the biggest mistake I did was this. I want the previous frame to be the primary input. I still want this. Oops. This is our source geometry, and then this is the volume, the SDF. And then I think these increment rate plus equals is just too high. right? Let me do something else here. Should be okay. I'm just gonna switch back here maybe to doing the lerp. I think here I can substitute that to make things a little bit clearer. I don't know, I think it was a mistake. All right. Gonna switch this to an add node. Just do delete points but keep geometry. So this is making it use these a lot quicker now to do this effect. Basically, instead of running the solver over the packed primitives every frame, you can just run it over points and it will be less data for it to keep track of. And then as a last step, you can take the current value and the value from this and copy it over. So just copying the distance over after it's done this step. Because our points, we're not deleting or creating points. Oh my god, I left not much. Thank you for the gift subs. Thank you for the 3 tier 1 gift subs. Let's go. Yeah, sorry I'm stumbling through this part here. But we'll get there. So this is transferring over the distance. I'm just doing this step to try to speed things up. I think I do want to stick with doing the minimum. The other thing I don't know, sometimes I have some hesitations about getting the attributes that way. I'm just going to switch this to this. So we're just going to try to transfer it over this way. The last thing you could do is just with like attribute create. If you make, you'd initialize the distance here to something like 1. And then you should see it updating. So that's just making it, instead of starting at zeros everywhere, we'll start at 1. I think my issue now is that I'm like, I see what I did. I don't even need to worry about the previous distance in this circumstance, I believe. Boom, get rid of it. get rid of that. Okay. Now it's sticking. And now we can do the plus equals. These, this solver SOP, you think you have a handle on it. It just always, there's enough like little gotchas with it that it'll always trick you. I think it's working a little bit better now. Let me try doing this even a lower number. So that 0.01 or the increment is like how quickly these are gonna return or try to return back to their original values. I might go with a little bit bigger spheres. And then with this distance remapping, just get that kind of a closer fade distance. I think I just have it going too slowly now. All right. Let's try like 0.0075. You love this one. The song? All right. Let's do another flip book. So I think this right now is another sphere coming in. I probably should have done the template geometry, but it should be okay. Gonna switch some other stuff around. Gonna update this method to by size. I think setting it to the other method of the uniform sampling could have been causing some problems. Or, I'm sorry, like non-square. And yeah, I don't know if it's this method here of doing my distances. Could have been a bad idea. Could try switching this around like that. And instead of doing volume sample, do I'm just going to switch this over to the Ray node. This is no longer the volume SDF, this is the point cloud. And I'm going to get minimum distance, and we just want to update the point intersection distance. So this is using that dist number. You'd plug things up like this. Naksara, how's it going? I think I want to switch this over to just points. Uh-oh. We broke it. All right. I think I've ruined it. Maybe I just have the number too small. I think it must be something I'm doing wrong in this node. Because this will work, it should work this way. Yeah, I don't know if this is, doesn't seem to be cooperating with me today. I see what I was doing wrong. This number, so you always using 2. So I think that's what was, it's just returning 0 because it was basically saying it couldn't find the input I was looking for. It was like basically the second input. The node input numbers will drive you insane. It's just going between 0, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever is endlessly maddening. So let's see if this is slowly fading. There you go. That's how you use Houdini. You spend an hour to do something that should be really simple. Let's let's do another flip book. See what happens. You play around with this range a little bit. The flip book, it's a nice way to, anytime your scene starts to get a little bit heavy, start to work that way just to get, otherwise you just lose a sense of like the timing of everything. All right, I think I was going the wrong way with my, all right, let's stick with that. So the FFmpeg stuff isn't working. I need to install. Yeah, I've never, you're talking about, like on Windows, you should still have, what is it? This stuff? Save preview maybe? Export. Yeah, I don't know. I'm using scripts and stuff on my end to call FFmpeg from the shell or from the terminal. I think other people have set it up with Windows, but I've never paid that much attention on what you need to do. So it looks like my stuff is, you see it's kind of fading. It definitely solved the flickering issue. Let's few gigs of JPEG frames. You can sometimes reduce the gigs of JPEGs. I don't know where you set it. If you get it to pick up somewhere that you're saving stuff as JPEG, it's there's like a compression setting for it that if you set it to like 0.99 or 99, it will do some internal like compression. So if you're saving like flipbooks, you usually don't care too much. Like you don't need it to be a lossless format. Yeah, I don't know if you can do directly to MP4. I have a shelf tool here that we'll call a script that I wrote to do flipbooking that does the same stuff. It dumps JPEGs to disk and then converts them. All right, so I'm gonna try to get even slower time between the increment so that it more slowly gets back to the original scale. And I guess the one advantage of this method is we can add more points without slowing things down too much. So just see what happens with that. It's just to visualize stuff again like this. Maybe we want, I don't know, try this a bigger range. See what happens. Let's give it a try. Make a Houdini file that converts directory and deletes the extra files afterwards. Yeah, I think that's what I've done with my shelf tool here. I've linked to it in the past with GitHub. It's not like I haven't polished it up for lots of distribution or whatever. But it's all kind of based off of this procedure. So you might have to rework it depending on your pipeline or how your folder project structure works or whatever. I like it because it does a one button click. I also have it set up to like make a backup of my scene file at the time of the video recording, or the flipbook recording. And then it will save like the Houdini version, the operating system of the Houdini. So if you keep a flipbook around from like 2 years ago and someone says recreate this effect and you don't get the exact same results, if you really need it for a client or something, it's good to keep track of the version if you need to install an older version of Houdini or whatever. Sometimes they update solvers or nodes that give you different noise patterns or different random numbers or results. So just keeping track of things that way. And then if I just go into just have all these working out of the same directory. So for today's date, it just makes a flipbook directory like that. And then it will give me a quick flipbook or whatever. So these are just take up like 3 megabytes with compression. But with the metadata, you kind of see it here as the path to the backup file, Houdini version 18.5, and all that stuff. So this is why I'm not using tops or whatever. It's why I stay with the scripts, and it's just a little bit less button. It's less like things. It's just one button to click. But yeah, it's just up to you. I mean, depending on the operating system and your own workflow and pipeline and stuff like that, it can be, you might want to use a different method. I'm thinking I delayed the recovery time too long here. I'm going to also do some less points. Let's go up to 0.005. So I think I was just losing like the dynamic kind of feeling of things when the fading was taking too long. Generally for streaming, I still will just flipbook this way because it's a little bit more interesting for people to watch instead of like waiting for a thing on disk to be generated or whatever, and then it's just a little bit more interactive to talk about and stuff like that. But yeah, for working with clients or doing that personal work, I'll usually use my own tools and stuff to keep track of things a little bit easier. And then as you're flip booking something, you just get like a coffee or fill up your water, take a breather or something, depending on how long it takes. So I might have been adding the number up a little bit too much, like getting back to the original value too quickly with that flickering. Let's go. I don't know if this 0.001 seemed to be a pretty good increment. Let's give it a try. Yeah, I don't know. It looks like this is still pretty slow. It's doing like a little over 3 times as fast of a recovery rate. I don't know. That's feeling a little bit closer to what I'm was after. All right. I'm just gonna do maybe one more tweak or so. Um, I think one thing is just these particles flying around is a little bit too too random or too weird. Like it's like bees flying around or something like that. Um, so I'm just gonna make some helixes. If you guys were going with the Vex Sunday streams, been doing the sine functions or whatever to make spirals or stuff like that. So basically what I do is take the height of the line, or the y position, and assign it u, like a UV coordinate or a UV texture. And then you can modulate like x and y, or x and z in this case, by sine and cosine. We'll do sine, cosine, and just see what we get there. So we scale this using pi. You get a half circle or half rotation. You do 2, you get a full rotation. So I can multiply it again times equals. This will be how many spirals I want. Looks like I need some more points. Tixieland. I've never, I've seen people putting screenshots of this and stuff, but I never went to the actual website. Yeah, I'll have to play around with that. So the other things you're gonna want usually are like a radius and a height. You'd actually assign these to sliders if you want to work that way. We'll do maybe just R for radius, just being lazy, and H for height. And then you just multiply these. So you scale the result of your spirals by the radius. We have that wiggly guy. It's like shader toy. Yeah, I was trying out, actually I haven't really tried it yet, but I guess like shade, IO. I don't know where it went. It was like some shader programmer for mobile or for your phone. But yeah, I think it's cool to be able to try out ideas, just like coding and stuff like that on the go. If you're commuting or stuff like that, it can be it's a fun little brain puzzle, logic puzzle. The last thing we need is height. We're gonna take the y value, and it's already going just between 0 and 1. So if you just multiply it by the height, that's all we need to do. So if we want to make it 2, we have this coil, spiral or whatever going around, drains the batteries. Yeah, you have to be careful with it using the GPU or whatever. I might do another copy and transform. So we'll do 180-degree rotation to get the spiral offset. We have our guy, and then we have these helix going through him. I might make it slightly smaller of a spiral. I don't think it was shaderific. Yeah, I think it was just this one, Shade.io. It's meant to like work with Unity, I think, if you could export your stuff, but you can use this kind of like it's Touch Designer or whatever. Yeah, there's a lot. It's a pretty general. It seems a lot of other people are making similar things as well. All right. So just try this with Heroku. I've never tried that. That's another thing. All right, let's go with the line again. I'm gonna do this with the same U attribute. But this time I'm gonna take that and use it to read a location on the other curve. So if you use primuv, you link it, tell it to get a coordinate UV position or position on the line of this input. We want to get the position. The primitive, it will just be 0. We just have one line here, or one primitive. It's free. Yeah, I tried to, if I'm learning new stuff, I'll try to stick to free applications just so my monthly bill, my annual bill or whatever isn't absurdly big. But obviously Houdini, there's a bit of a cost, and Nuke and stuff like that, they have some prices. All right. So I think I can add time to this. Nuke Indie, yeah, it's pretty good. It's definitely a bit more expensive than Houdini, right? I think I don't need that. All right, let's just divide this. Yeah, I think that's more expensive than Houdini Indie, maybe, I'm not sure. There's also like Natron. So this, I think, is open source and free. It doesn't perform as well as Nuke, but like I've had some glitches and stuff with it. But if you need a free thing that looks pretty similar to Nuke, you could give that a try as well. So just do the copy. Yeah, I think just because it is a free version, is like that's one sacrifice you pay with free stuff, is it just isn't ever as polished, or like they don't have as many people to fix bugs or stuff like that. All right. So we have our DNA helix kind of thing. You'd plug it in and see what happens. So I'm just trying to get, oh no. Just trying to get my pattern looking a little bit more regular. I think with this, just do less points. Let's see what we get. So I was just thinking maybe the noise moving the points around, it was a little bit incoherent. It was like too much stuff moving around. So maybe adding kind of like a pattern or a more expected result or something like that could be interesting. So it's just like easier for your eye to follow, or less confusing, I guess. I'm also gonna change my functions around too. So the bigger this number gets, then that's like the wider perimeter. But yeah, looping is nice as well. Being able to make a seamless repetition or whatever. So I'm just gonna expand the range here so that you could completely see through it sometimes. All right, let's give him another try. Stuff here's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know. You might want to adjust the spacing or the number of points I have spiraling so that his face can fully reform. Let's just try that real quick. So I'm gonna take my spiral and move it, expand it out a little bit further, and we'll just do 4 points instead of what was it before? 8? 6. All right. We'll just go down to 4. And I'm just gonna cache the output here. It's a little quicker to work with. This will just be distance fade. Let's just do save in background. It just lets you keep working or setting things up that way. It's gonna take a little bit of time to do this because in the background it is gonna have to fracture and do a lot of other steps, but it should be okay. I can actually just take this time to make a quick little scene. And you just go into here and visualize the statue. You guys have been doing some fancy new stuff with Houdini 18.5. One of the things I was really enjoying with it or interested in was try something maybe like this. I guess I might as well just go back to my square. We're stuck in the square. One of the things I was finding to be pretty interesting was if you press the D key, you go to scene, you can do camera depth of field. So it should let you, I don't know, I was having some issues with it. You can kind of see it a little bit there. This should let you visualize like the focal plane or the focal depth in the viewport. I don't know how, it seems to have issues. I don't know if it's maybe, it's a newer feature, but it seems to have some issues sometimes. If is this, I guess maybe it was just too wide of a focal range or something. This is like some artifacts or weird stuff like that. But yeah, you could do some interesting cinematography stuff with it a little bit better. I'm just gonna set this as well down here to do unpack. So if I'm using the color attribute for redshift, you just want to unpack at the end so that it can access the vertex attribute of the color and things like that. I'm just going to turn off that depth of field. Just make a material, make a light. Look at that. It's looking funky. Make our material builder, point attribute, get the vertex color, put that in there. Should get a little bit closer to like a plastic or something like that. Just assign it, see if it's working. Might be a heavy mesh. All right, I think it's coming. I was just making the light smaller, so it doesn't have like as soft as shadows. Now I was getting, forget who it was, but someone left me some helpful comments on YouTube about dialing in the min-max settings here. So basically this is like, with Mantra, the AA samples or the super samples, I think if you like override your light samples, might be too much. It's a little bit easier to solve some noise introduced from like lighting or indirect diffuse this way instead of this as like global samples that would apply to motion blur or depth of field and all that stuff. All right, let's go into the camera and let's turn on the depth of field. So yeah, I think the viewport, the f-stop doesn't line up, or there's some weird stuff happening. Hopefully they'll get it a little bit more synced up. It'd be pretty cool to have like viewport depth of field that would match render pretty closely. I don't know about this interior material. Maybe it's just like not bright enough. You might be able to speed up the rendering of this stuff if you do the soup. Maybe you could get rid of some of the extra attributes. Like, for example, we don't need the name. Let's just get rid of that. Let's see if Redshift can load it faster. This is kind of like optimizations for rendering, or especially if you're using a GPU renderer. You just have less information or more consolidated information. It will be quicker to transfer the stuff to the GPU. So yeah, I think this is a little bit more interesting, having this stuff pop out a little bit more. I did boost it like above 1. I made the blue channel 2 just to get it really popping or like exaggerating or whatever. I think if we want all this stuff down here is going to just be the render flag. You just hold down T and click to move the magenta, the purple, I guess, flag. Then the viewport, as long as you don't have anything hiding the geometry view here, so that can cause like the scene to be slower as well. So now we should just be visualizing this node in the viewport. If you want to look at the animation or whatever, it's a little bit easier to keep track of that. We might add circle. Just adding a quick background for like lighting and stuff. So this circle, you can change your arc to open and do like a semicircle. All right. You think it's gonna mess up my light? Should be okay. Oof. It's not high enough. All right. Let's see how it goes. Look at this. We are at 999 followers. We need one more for 1K. So close. So I'm just gonna play around with the settings. Okay, add some more. Probably better, less shiny. Like a broader specular. If you really wanted to, you could split this stuff into 2 different materials, but I think it should be okay for right now. Just moving a little more quickly than I would if I was just doing this like solo. This power stance. The wide angle. I think we went too wide. This is probably a better framing. You get like both his hands in there. I don't know how much you want to accentuate like the depth of field business. Sometimes reduce this aspect. That looks insanely good. Thank you. Yeah, it's a pretty simple color. Was just trying to get close to like the other artist or whatever I was mentioning earlier. The Jeff Koons, blue, Eve Klein. I don't think it's perfect, but it's interesting. So yeah, I think with these render settings, you can get a little bit quicker frames. Could even do that. Let's do a quick animation. We'll just do like the 1/3 resolution or whatever. You can do another version if you guys want to get up to date. And do rendering to mplay. We won. We finished the the solitaire. So it looks like the slowest part is just going to be like the unpacking and loading of the geometry. I don't know, maybe doing like a poly reduce, or maybe there might be some smart stuff you could do to hide like the little boxes that are inside of his body are completely occluded, but it's just going to be a little slow for us right now. Like one easy optimization you can do is delete the stuff that's outside of the camera frame, the camera frustum. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of other things you could do to really speed this up. You can't really use instancing. You might be able to convert all of the internal boxes to like instanced boxes, and just the shell, like the ones that have unique features on the outside, to actual geometry, if that makes sense. Like everything inside of his torso or sculpture or whatever could actually just be a standard like box that would be a shared instance. But we're doing things the sloppy way right now. Some other stuff you could do is like, instead of just doing scale, if you play with rotation. In that YouTube video I linked way early, was this one here. I did talk about how to modify the rotation of the transform intrinsic. That's another thing you could do to make this interesting. Like have these rotated in a certain direction as they shrink down. I don't know. I think it's pretty cool though, the way that it's kind of cracking. It's like a digital crack or something. That digital crack. Let me see. I was working on trace animated frames. If you use the trace SOP, you should be able to do $F in the frame expression. Top left. This is like, we're doing a complete vaporwave production here. With, the vaporwave model with some classic deep fried window management. It's trying to find here one of the older, I think it was the 23rd, one of the older cool zones. October 23rd. Yeah, the one with the boxes. I set up a little animation for that one. Yeah, with MP4s, to use them as sequences or anything like that inside of Houdini, I believe you need to convert them to frames, like numbered PNGs or JPEGs. You could do it with Nuke if you have it, or if you have FFmpeg. You can use FFmpeg to convert from an MP4 to and extract the actual frames. I don't remember the exact commands, but if you Google it, you can figure out how to do it. Or even like animated GIFs or GIFs or whatever, that's another thing you would need to extract out into frames to use them as an animated sequence inside of Houdini. But yeah, if you guys remember this one, I was going through and rendering it. I was trying to add like a little bit of handheld camera animation, camera motion or something like that. this is from a couple weeks ago. Yeah, with I think just the way that Houdini, yeah, there was some bloom, some glow. You could kind of see it. There was the redshift post effects. Yeah, I think just the way that Houdini works, it won't read MP4 frames. Like most low-level applications or more technical applications don't want to do it that way. After Effects and stuff like that, you probably can get away with it, but like even Maya or other 3D software, I don't know, Cinema you might be able to, but it's just generally a worse idea to do it. You can run into issues with like frame rates and stuff like that where it might not pull in the right, extract the right frame from a movie, or if you're using like a render farm or stuff like that, it might not handle the reference frames or like the P frames. Like there's just weird stuff that can go wrong, and it's better to bake the texture. But yeah, this, I don't know if I pushed it. It's weird doing the bloom on black. You get some artifacts and stuff with it, but I was trying to make it feel a little bit more photographic or whatever, but I might have punched it. You would see here with it and without. Yeah, it might be better without the bloom. I don't know. So yeah, here we are with our wavy boy. This one might be cooler to do some, looks good with the bloom. Yeah, it's hard to know. I think with, I think some of it depends on like your color settings in your screen. I think on mobile or like Instagram or with social media websites, generally with the bloom, it looks a little bit better, just less like CG, less contrasty. It makes it look a little bit more realistic. But yeah, this, I don't know, this could be cool to add like some camera macro shots where you don't really know, like you just see a part of the body, like the shoulder or something like that. Yeah, I don't know, my animations are a little bit weird. You might want it to change like the timing of some of this stuff or something like that, just to finesse the way things fade in and out, like the face and all that business or whatever. The stuff on the legs feels pretty gooey, pretty mushy. Nevada takes so long to count. I mean, it just depends. Like, it's just really scuffed the way that each state basically has its own counting process and stuff like that. It's a mess. So they all have different machines or different ways that they handle things with the mail-in voting, which a lot of people did because of COVID. Some states are allowed to start counting those early. Some states had to wait till the day of the election to actually like start opening the mail or whatever, which is weird. Nevada will just always do weird stuff, it seems like. During the primary, during the primary for the Democrats, with Nevada, they had a caucus, which is just like people just have to stand on certain sides of a room to figure out who's going to be their candidate for the Democrats would run. And if they got into a tie in Nevada, they would draw cards because it's like the casino or like a gambling, like blackjack and stuff. They were just drawing a card to see who had the higher number, and then that was the candidate that would win. There's just all kinds of like super old-fashioned reasons of like super outdated. Paul Revere and his horse and a resolute desk. So the deadline is this was the 3rd for everyone, but different states, like in California, you could have mailed in a ballot on election day on the 3rd, and they still count ballots even if it gets there, even if they get as long as it's postmarked on the 3rd, they'll still count the vote in California. But in other states, the judges or the people ruled that you couldn't 1v1 strike DE dust. That's your preferred method. Could do the this one. You just have one life only. first kill. It's like the old-fashioned duels where you would walk 10 paces with the pistols and turn around, but the new method of doing that is with a 1v1 DE dust. Would it be if it's on Counter-Strike? Is it just knives only? Or they're just chasing each other around for? So yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be cooler to tweak the ranges of this stuff a little bit. Like, I don't know if it's just timing. This stuff should be eroding or hiding bigger portions of his body and then revealing it. I think that's one of the main issues with this animation and everything right now. But it's definitely a cool start of a effect or something interesting animation. Yeah, so that's probably going to be it for today, unless anyone has any other questions or ballot counting advice. Yeah, we'll be back Sunday with the another strong big brain workshop. I already did a question at the start for September. It was some interesting fluid stuff. I kind of just mentally need a breather. The solver sop stuff right now got my mind pretzeled up too much. But if you ask it on Discord, I could try to get around to it later today or something. I have the mush brain. The viscosity on my brain got lowered, and it's gonna come out of my ears. Not much sleep. Yeah, I don't know. I've been waking up. I've been falling to sleep early, but then waking up early. So, let's take a look. Looks like Blake Catherine is online the usual Friday, Cool Zone, and then head over to her stream for an even cooler zone. She's been doing some cool Hitchcock zooms and stuff like that, like vertigo effects. I don't know what she's... Looks like she's in ZBrush or something, getting a model together now. But yeah, I'll send everyone over there if you guys want to chill. It's a cool addition to the Cool Zone with her. All right, we'll be back Sunday. Vex Big Brain Day.